NCAA's Division I Board of Directors is set to meet and approve the new policy Wednesday. It would take effect on Thursday. So what does this mean for players and the future of college sports? Here to break it down for us is Keith Reed, former editor at ESPN. Keith, good evening and welcome to BNC.
Awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are happy to have you with us as well. So Keith, this is a pretty major development. How much can students, athletes expect to make? What do you think?
It's hard to say at this point because we're in a place where this is an entirely new business model for college sports. This has never been done before. The NCAA, up until this very week, has never been willing to relent on the idea that college athletes, especially at the Division I level, are anything other than amateur, even while everybody else around them is making millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars, in the instance of some of the programs and some of the coaches that are out there. We don't know right now how much these athletes could make. There are suggestions out there that they should start by charging up to $1,000 an hour for an appearance. There are suggestions that this could be more lucrative for athletes who have a bigger social media following. There are suggestions out there that this could be more profitable for women athletes who right now don't have the same opportunities to go into the professional level after college than male athletes. But we really don't know what this is going to mean in terms of how much money student athletes can put into their pocket, because again, this has never ever been tried before.
Yeah, and today's ruling, it comes just days before rules take effect in 6 states, allowing student athletes to make money. We're talking about their names, images, and likeness. How big of a role did this time crunch play in today's decision?
It was huge, and what might have been even bigger than those laws taking effect later this week is the fact that the NCAA lost a very big decision in the Supreme Court last week. I was actually here talking about that very decision, where the Supreme Court of the United States essentially said that the NCAA has absolutely no right to prevent schools from paying college athletes or compensating college athletes with more than just scholarships. So in other words, if I were a student who was a very bright student in technology, a school could compensate me not only by giving me a scholarship, but they could also provide funding for me to study overseas. They could provide funding for a research project, all of those things. But the NCAA had always limited student athletes to being able to just recoup what it cost them to go to school. Some athletes sued. It made it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rejected the NCAA's arguments. The NCAA has been seeing the writing on the wall in terms of compensating student athletes for years now. They've lost several major court decisions. These states that have passed laws that were going to allow student athletes and at least some states to use their name, image, and likeness to generate some revenue. The NCAA had to get out ahead of this. They're actually not really out ahead of this. They're being reactionary, but they had to do something because their business model was crumbling right before their eyes.
Yeah, and Keith, I'm reminded of some of those students that this is their only ticket to making money for their families, coming from low-income households, a lot of our black and brown kids. So I know at this point they want to be able to get paid for it. So how long until student athletes actually cash in? What do you think?
I think it's going to be very quick. There are stories out there that in some local jurisdictions, that in some of these markets where you're close to, you got to remember, in college sports, you're talking about college towns. So in many places, you're talking about being in a city like Tuscaloosa, where the biggest thing there is the football team. You're talking about being in a place like State College, Pennsylvania, where the biggest thing there is Penn State football. So if you can get a student athlete to sign on as an endorser to your automobile dealership, to your retailer, to whatever the case is, that's very attractive to some of these local businesses. And you can definitely believe that in the larger business world, you're going to see some of the bigger companies out there making some overtures to some of the more popular student athletes out there. Again, especially based on their social media followings, you're going to see a lot of these things develop very quickly. I think you're probably going to start to see some deals happening immediately. I would not be surprised if you didn't see a flurry of deals happening in the next 7 to 10 days.
Well, Keith, I bet you we already got a whole bunch of people saying where the cash at, where the money resides. So we'll see what happens next. Well, Keith Reed, we thank you so much, former editor at ESPN. Thank you for your time tonight.
Great to be here. Thank you.
You too. Next.